Hello guys, welcome back to my channel, and hello if you are new, it's your girl with Dan's World, and in today's video I'm going to be sharing the stats that got me into schools like the University of Glasgow, Northeastern University, SLU Madrid, GSU, and more. As we all know, and if you don't know, I am a USA student, which means I went to a USA public high school, but I did go on to apply to UK universities, international universities in Europe, and universities domestically here in the US. Per my college decision video, it was shown that I got into several UK universities, several domestic universities here in the United States, and at least one university internationally that was in Europe, which was SLU Madrid specifically. I went into the admission cycle having a game plan of, applying to schools in my state, which is Georgia, but also branching out and applying to schools internationally, whether that be in Europe, like in Madrid, Spain, or in the Czech Republic, or in the UK. So in this video specifically, I will be sharing the stats that got me into those universities and in the universities in those areas as well. This video is in no way, shape, or form to brag about the stats that I have or anything like that. It's primarily to give an example of what your grades may need to look like to get into universities abroad or domestically. First off, I'm going to tell you guys my GPA, unweighted and weighted, and then I'm going to go through my grades year by year through all 4 years of high school. For this portion of the video, I will be looking at my phone a lot for my reference, so please do not be bothered by that. At the end of my high school career, my weighted GPA ended up being a 3.656 weighted, and unweighted a 3.531. I really just want to break through the stigma of your GPA needing to be a 4.0 or a 3.7 and higher, because GPAs are not easy to raise, and I started off freshman year with 3.7 GPA, and as you can see, it doesn't really seem like there was much of a difference, but a few C's can knock you down a few points when it comes to your GPA. So whether or not you have a 3.5 or above, just know that your goal is not to get a 4.0. Your goal is to pass your classes and end up going to whichever school is affordable and relevant to your situation and will help you throughout your life and career. Don't be so focused on getting such a high GPA, and just be primarily focused on getting one that is substantial to you and not to everyone else, because I feel like in a lot of these videos I'll be like, I have a 4.0, 4.3, 4, you know what I'm saying? I, in my own opinion, have been a very much average student throughout high school. I didn't really get crazy high grades. Like, I've only had maybe 2 semesters where I had all A's, and that is the reality of it. In a lot of these videos, I feel like they set unrealistic standards, and I feel like because I'm an average student that got into such top schools, you can say, that I can give a more realistic perspective on the fact that you do not need a crazy high GPA like a 4.0 and above to get into good schools like Northeastern, for example. For 9th grade, which is freshman year 2021 to 2022, they put us in a bunch of intro classes just to give us a perspective on what we want for our future. So at my school specifically, they put you in intro classes to start you on a business pathway or like a career pathway, for example, and you can choose whether or not you want to stay to those pathways throughout the rest of high school. Some people do all 4 years or all 3 years of that pathway and graduate with a certificate. For example, cosmetology, if you were lucky enough to even get into that pathway, because it was very competitive, a lot of people wanted that. You would get a cosmetology certificate. You were trained, and you didn't have to go to cosmetology school. I think that was one of them. I mean, this is out of order. This is not by semester. It's just going to show me the whole full academic year. So I don't really remember which classes were in first or second semester, but I'm going to be telling you guys the weighted grades and putting the unweighted grades also, because it's a lot to be saying, so I'm just going to say the weighted grades. Each class, besides health and personal fitness, was exactly 1 credit. Intro, business, and technology, I got a 94. Health, I got a 97. Honors, 9th lit, 95. Biology, a 90. GSE, algebra 1, I got a 79. A 79. Personal fitness, I got a 100. World geography, I got an 89. Intro to drafting and design, I got a 93, and French 1, I got a 93. Let me just say something about that algebra class. no shade to the teacher because she still teaches at my high school, but it was her first year teaching math in my state, and she was from Tennessee, and the curriculum for Georgia like the curriculum in general from state to state differs, and so it was her first time teaching the Georgia state math, if that makes sense. And I basically had to teach myself math that whole semester, and so for me to end up with a 79, I was very grateful. On to grade 10, sophomore year, which is the year 2022 to 2023. Honors World Lit, 85. GSE Geometry, 81. SAT Prep, like why was I taking that class? SAT Prep, 89. Physical Science, 76. World History, 92. Theater Arts Fundamental 1, 92. Beginners Guitar and Technique, 99, and French 2, a 90. So I feel like in comparison to year 1, freshman year to sophomore year, you can see that there was a few dips in my grades, but we all get through that. Physical science has never been my forte. I love the idea of science. I think science is fairly cool, but I cannot do science. Okay, now on to 11th grade, which is junior year. This is from the year 2023 to 2024. Financial literacy, I received an 86. AP Lang and Composition, 98. Environmental science, 93. Advanced algebra and concepts in C, 93. Intro to law and course security, 88. Psychology, 92. AP US History, 92. And honors French 3, 100. As you can see, in junior year, I received no C's. I was very, very serious on not receiving any C's, at least on the weighted side. Yeah, weighted and unweighted side, I did not receive a C whatsoever. At this point, it was like, okay, we're applying to colleges soon. We cannot be getting any more C's, because C's do bring down your GPA. I don't know if a significant amount, but a significant amount enough for me to have noticed from my first 2 years. Okay, on to grade 12. This is my senior year, which was from the year 2024 to 2025. This year I took, I took 3 AP classes, which I was really trying to stack up. So AP Computer Science, I got a 96. Honors Multicultural Lit, a 96. Pre-Calculus, 92. Forensic Science, 93. Criminal Justice Essentials, a 90. AP Government/Politics, 107. AP Microeconomics, an 83. And Honors French 4, 98. In total, I finished all 4 years of high school with 32 credits, which is around the typical amount of credits that one receives in high school. So that was my year-by-year report of my grades for all 4 years of high school. Now I'm going to be getting into my AP scores. So if you didn't notice, I took a total of 5 AP classes all 4 years of my high school career. The story of me in these AP classes, I'm going to keep it real with you guys. I had to physically ask to be put in AP classes. I feel like if you are not that type of student that is excelling beyond the rest of your classmates in middle school, they tend to not put you in higher advanced classes in high school. The only reason that I had honors ELA throughout high school, obviously besides junior year when I had AP Lang, was because my ELA teacher for 8th grade, Miss Snow, love her very much. She kept me very motivated, made me fall in love with writing and reading all over again. Great teacher. She believed in my writing and my skills and signed me up or recommended me to be in honors ELA throughout high school. And now with AP classes, I don't really know how the process goes for someone who didn't quote unquote ask to be put in them. I think it's kids who did honors in middle school and then were pushed up to doing AP classes. I'm not really sure. But for my case, I knew that I needed something to not only quote unquote challenge me, but to raise my GPA because I wanted to apply to those competitive schools. I did succeed fairly well enough in AP classes. AP Lang was my first ever AP class, and to be honest, that is a crazy class to be your first. But like I was saying, I had to physically ask to be put in those AP classes. All I did was email my counselor saying, I'm really interested in joining these classes for next year or XYZ semester, which way you want to put it. And then I was emailed a form that my parents had to sign, and the form is basically saying that I cannot drop the classes. I didn't drop any of my AP classes. I did fairly well in all of them. We're gonna ignore AP Microeconomics. I dreaded that class every day I walked into it, but at the end of the day, I still passed and was fine. With that being said, I'm going to be getting into my AP scores. I only took 3 AP tests out of all 5 AP classes that I did take in high school. And the AP tests that I did take were AP US History, AP Lang, and AP Government/Politics. In my next video about how I got into a UK university, specifically University of Glasgow, that video is specifically about why I chose to go to that university and the application process for applying to a UK university. And I mention this because I also mention my AP scores in that video and a little bit of my stats, but this is obviously a more in-depth video about them. And I just wanted to highlight that real quickly if you guys are specifically interested in how to apply to a university and how to get in and the stats that got me in specifically for UK university. And that will be linked in the description box down below once I post that. It should be posted after this video. Okay, for AP Lang, which was, like I said, the first AP class that I ever took, keep in mind 88 unweighted, 98 weighted. I didn't study whatsoever for that AP test. I walked in blind as a bat. At some point I was writing about literally anything. I wrote about dinosaurs on there. At the same time, the AP Lang test and the AP US History test was around the same time, and I had AP Lang first semester and AP US History second semester, and as we all know, AP tests are within the second semester of school, so I was primarily focused on AP US History. This left me not studying for AP Lang at all, and none of those skills that I learned in AP Lang really stuck with me, so I ended up getting a 1 on AP Lang, which it can be embarrassing to get a 1, I can say, on your AP test, but I really wasn't surprised. My AP US History test, aka a push, I did receive a 3. I did probably on and off studying, and then like a week before the AP test I really sat down. And I will say that sometimes the score that you get on your AP test depends on whether or not the teacher is still teaching material while you're inching towards the AP test. AP Lang and AP US History were both my classes for junior year, and then for senior year I took AP Government/Politics, in which I received a 3. That was my last ever AP test that I took, and out of the 3 AP classes that I took senior year, that was the only test that I took as well. I loved AP Gov. That was such a fun class. I had several friends on that class. The assignments were fairly straightforward. It definitely gave me an understanding of the structure of government and politics. And another thing that I would like to mention about why I took AP tests in my senior year, even though at that point in second semester I already knew what school I was committed to and going to, which was a UK university. None of my conditions for my UK universities required an AP entry. In my How I Got to UK Uni video that is coming out next, I talk about how some UK universities will give an AP entry. At my school, we have exemptions at the end of each semester, and if you are signed up to take the AP test, you do not need to take the AP final in that class. Now I'm going to talk about my SAT score. Just a very little segment about my SAT score, because I took it 3 times. I took it 3 times, guys. Isn't that crazy? Which is, I think, in total $120. It has become very apparent to me that I am not a standardized test taking person. I struggle with taking standardized tests. It's become very obvious to me. I'm going to tell you each score that I got for each time. The first time I ever took my SAT, I took it my sophomore year after I took SAT prep. I took it in June of 2023, and this was one of the last paper SAT exams given in the United States before all the exams went digital. So I received a 950. I still sit there and think about the fact that I took it on paper. Okay, slight correction. For my second SAT, I got 10. And then in November of 12th grade, I took the SAT again. For my last SAT, it was a 570 for the reading and writing and a 510 for my math. I only did 2 major extracurriculars throughout high school, which that might seem very striking in comparison to other stats videos. The reason for this being I didn't really have transportation to be staying after school like that. I mostly rode the bus until senior year, where I had my own car. So for junior year, I was in speech and debate for about 3 months, and the reason I was in speech and debate for only 3 months is because I did not like the structure of the club within itself. But throughout that time that I was in the club, I was fully immersed in that experience of analyzing the debates and analyzing the arguments and all that stuff. And I feel like that really added on to my skill of being able to dissect argumentative documents. So that was helpful. Now for senior year, me and my friend Adobe started a classical guitar club. We met every Tuesday and Thursday with our friends and played guitar, learned new songs. So at this time I had a car so I can get to school and back to home freely as wished for these club meetings, and it was just more efficient and more accessible for me to be in this extracurricular, especially because I was the co-founder, meaning that I could control the structure of my own club. I really got the full experience of leading a club and the leadership and the authority that comes with it. I just want to quickly highlight before I get into my tips for future applicants and other people that want to get into XYZ school, that you do not need a crazy GPA to get into good schools. Throughout many years through this college admissions and college decision videos, there have been a lot of people that have the really high GPAs getting to the really high top schools. But in my college decision video, when I got into Northeastern, I was shocked. I was not expecting anything like that because, as we all know, Northeastern is not easy to get into. And regardless of what campus I got into, I was still surprised and shocked that I even had a chance of getting into it. Whether it be that you have low extracurriculars like how I did, or you don't really have a crazy high GPA like how I did, you can still get into those schools. Do not sell yourself short. Me personally, I applied to those USA domestic schools and applied to those UK schools. Branch yourself out. You do not need to be scared. Just branch yourself out, you know, cast your net out wide and really put yourself out there. Do not underestimate your scores, your AP scores, your SAT scores, your GPA, or your extracurriculars, because no matter what anybody tells you, you still have a chance on getting into the school that you are so desired to get into. So the first tip is to tailor your application to both the program and the country. And I say this because for USA schools, as a USA student, you have to apply on the Common App, and during that process you have a lot of supplemental essays. You have your primary personal statement essay that goes out to all your schools and all that stuff. So there is a lot of essays, and for USA applicants, of course, in your supplementals, this is where you can be more school specific. Okay, for UK universities / international universities, wherever it may be, I'm going to mostly be talking about UK schools here. For UK schools, on the UCAS, which I dive more into in my other video, on UCAS you have one personal statement that goes out to 5 schools. On the UCAS you only have 5 choices, so you have to be very serious on what you want your 5 choices to be. You have 5 choices on the UCAS. You only have one personal statement on the UCAS. There are no supplementals on the UCAS, so you cannot be school specific on the UCAS. And so when it comes to tailoring your application to your course and the location, I heavily recommend keeping your personal statement on your UCAS application strictly academic. They only want to know why you want to be studying your course and why you are qualified to study your course. If you want to study zoology, talk about how you fell in love with zoology and what classes you took during high school that made you feel firm in your decision to be studying zoology in university. And if you are an international student, let's say in my case, USA student applying to a UK university, you want to specify why you want to study in the UK. I think there are many videos on YouTube on how to structure your UCAS personal statement, but if you're interested specifically in mine, I will put a PDF of it in the description down below. Tip 2 was use your personal statement to show clear academic interest. Like I said, keeping it academic for UK applications, and for US applications, showing why you fell in love with your subject and how that has in correlation with your life. Tip 3 would be to show your extracurriculars off a little bit. I didn't really talk about my extracurriculars a lot on my US application because I feel like for USA personal statements, you are more emotional, more life story driven with them, versus UK university, it's personal statements, it's primarily just why you want to study there, XYZ. It is not about your sob story. And my 4th tip is, as everyone says in these videos, get your application ready early. For both my USA schools and my UK schools, I submitted all my applications on the same day, which was October 4th, but I started them both relevantly at a different time. For my USA personal statement, I started writing it off of scraps. Basically, I jotted up some ideas on what I wanted it to primarily be about. For my UK one, I probably 2 weeks before I submitted it, if we're gonna keep it honest, I think it was like late September when I started writing it. Another relevant thing that I should mention is that for UK universities, they are on a rolling admission basis. So they don't have any set date in which you should know when you've gotten in. It is significantly important, if you are applying to UK schools, that you do submit your application early. And my last and final tip is to not overlook international campuses. For SLU Madrid, which is St. Louis University Madrid campus, and Northeastern University London campus, I did specifically apply to their international campuses. Like I said earlier in the video, everyone's to branch out and put themselves out there, apply to those international schools, apply to those international campuses, apply to the top 10s and top 20s in America. Just put yourself out there. Do not be scared of rejection. Though rejection sucks, that's the whole thing of rejection is redirection. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I really hope that you take my advice and have a very successful future. I hope to catch you guys in my next video. Bye.